This segment on Baylor Athletics on Sic'Em 365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. Learn more at richardcarr.com.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
David Smoke with Baylor football coach Dave Aranda, the couple of days after Brigham Young and Texas State this week. What did you learn, other than X's and O's, but what did you learn about your football team now that you've been able to break it all down?
I learned that we are a young team and that there's a great connection on the team, and I believe there's a great trust, but I think the inner workings of kind of what it takes of the discipline, the ability to own pressure. Those are things that still have to be developed, and I think it's so I learned those things. But I think it's all good, and I think it's all part of it. It's it's being able to address those things, from the view of we're trying to help you, we're trying to teach, I'm in this with you, and all of that, to where we don't get the fight or the flight, the flight being the most concerning, and be able to get tighter as a team and move forward. I think that's always a concern after a loss.
Do they now believe you about the storm coming?
I think so, yeah. We were, so it was yesterday. And I think Apu and Cole Maxwell were sitting there in that front, right outside the office right there. And we were, and Apu was talking about it. Apu was a great motivator in the game, and really played loose and free, and I thought he really played well. Cole, I thought, had his best game since I've known Cole. And so anyways, they were sitting out there, and I said to Apu, man, I really appreciate your energy and your words, because he would, talk about running into a storm on the sidelines in a huddle, or he'd talk about, hey, this is us, this is what we're made for, this, and this is why you got to love it, and all this other thing. I mean, he goes, yeah, I know. He goes, Coach, I was saying it because I just saw in people's eyes. And I go, I know, me too, man, me too. And then he goes, we've talked about it so much, but I think that's just part, I don't know. I think that's part of the thing. There, just in the conference earlier, there was something of, I've been in the meetings, but I haven't really paid attention because I haven't played. I think it's that, and so that, everything's kind of, it's Groundhog Day to us, and that's always going to be the case, and we always got to be able to teach it. But the best teacher, I guess, is the actual thing. And so, if we can learn from other people and learn from those experiences, then I think we can take the shortcut next time and not have to go through what we just did.
Is there concern you can lose an edge if the fog, a long trip, a late night back, you lose the game, the incredible atmosphere? Is there a concern that a team can let this linger? I know you should clear it 24 hours, whatever. How do you work on that this week?
Yeah, we do. I think today is a big day for that, and I think I talked about it with the staff. There's a quote by Robert Frost where he says, the best way out is always through. And I think, that along with the best criticism of the bad is the practice of the better. And so it's like, let's be honest about what just happened, and let's and it's hard to talk about because everyone attaches their manhood and their ego to all of it. And, there's dudes on the team that, in practice here throughout the week, we're just nailing stuff, like full speed, doing it right. And then we get to the game on Saturday, and it was the exact opposite of that. It was like offers, which is difficult to, it's difficult for someone to accept when it's that type of thing, to really kind of see that and look at it and, all be on the same level of all of it and talk about it. I think that's difficult for the ego to accept. And so I think we really have to be able to do that, and we have to do that well. And I think that'll just continue to build trust and all of it. But that happened with a lot of our young people.
Brigham Young deserves credit for this as well, and the atmosphere and all of that. But you made the decision for quarterback one with Blake so you could possibly be more dynamic on offense. Mm-hmm. Didn't see much of that Saturday. Was that Brigham Young? Was it the atmosphere, or was it kind of a combination of everything?
I think it was a combination of everything. I think, so BYU's front was very active, and I thought they out hustled us, which is difficult to say. And I thought that, offensively, especially up front, we need to regain our edge. I feel like you could argue that was an issue in the first game, especially in the first quarter or half, and you could definitely make that argument here in this last one. And so I think the ability to keep the focus on the focus, and I think everybody wants to be a champion, but are you focusing on what it takes today to practice and prepare like a champion? I think those things, the process over outcome, are really what's at issue there.
Coach Mateos calls it grit, that offensive line, and they got a lot of headlines as well. One of the best offensive line groups coming back. Could there be? It's not that they read the headlines, but could there be a little bit of a kind of a come to Jesus with them?
I don't know. I think there's great intention and great belief on our part with them, and I think practices have had great intentionality with all of it. I just feel like there is an edge right now that has to be developed. And so, in my talks with Eric, it was, how can we make our individual period more demanding and more taxing, and how can we make it more, hey, let's teach off the tape. Let's, I think that probably the word would be grind and grit your way through. And we probably have to practice like that more to get some of that more on Saturday. And how can we do that in our individual period? And so I think, anytime that there is, learning to take place, I think the ability to see it clearly and to not, get either yourself in the way or other egos in the way is always the task. And I feel like Eric's got a good grasp with that.
People who watch the games, whether they're in the stands or TV, whatever, they can't see sometimes the entire. That's what you guys do. Mm-hmm. Is it harder or is it easier said than done to change a game plan in game or at halftime than sometimes people realize?
I remember, it's a good question. I'm trying to, some of this stuff's hard to talk about, honestly, because you never, I don't want to give the impression that it was, especially after a loss, when you have good questions like you just asked, I think it's like, there is a view of when you look at someone's eyes and they see it. And now sometimes, those eyes and stuff. I remember at LSU we played A&M and it was the 7 overtime game. Mm-hmm. And I remember after the 3rd overtime, we saw those eyes. And I saw a lot of that in this last game, those same eyes.
Confusion or lack of confidence?
Probably, the bigness of it all. Mm-hmm. Probably taking cues from outside as opposed to being inside. the inside stuff would be kind of your pace, your rhythm, your routine. The outside stuff would be, I got to prove this. I got to prove to these people that I'm good enough. I have to show this. I have to, big people play good in big games and all this other thing. And so I think it's partly that. I think it was partly, and then I think that brings you down a notch or two. And then I thought BYU played a notch or two up. Yeah. And I think all of it is tied into it. And so I think, for us, again, to be real honest about that, and then to move forward with, if you can call it what it is, and then have the remedy for that, then that's a hell of a day. That's a great win right there after a loss, and so we're hoping for that.
A question about the kicking game. Obviously, extra point, field goal. It sometimes, like a quarterback throws a pick, it's not always on the quarterback. Could be protection, could be the route, could be the quarterback. Is that happening in the kicking game? Is it kind of a little bit of everything, or did Isaiah just have a bad night?
I think there was a low snap, I thought, when we handled the ball. I think I thought we were able to get it up, and so the start of the down, I don't think affected the end of the down, and so I think we just that's something we have to be better at, and I think. Isaiah is someone that takes all that way serious and works hard at it, and I know in the hours in the day or so after, it's been eating him up, and I know that he is going to be he's going to be better for it. I feel like our ability to hit those things consistently, especially during this next couple-week stretch, is going to be a big part of our season.
You don't like penalties. Nobody likes penalties. Sometimes they happen. Some of them are just because you're playing so fast. You had extended penalties that extended some of their drives. Are those the ones that frustrate you the most?
Yeah, I think, I think there is, I think one of them, I think when it comes to stuff like this, and when I'm in front of the team or talking to any of the coaches about it, there is a temptation to kind of take it personal, and you just can't. It's just so much bigger than that, and I think no one's doing penalties and stuff to say, well, I'm going to show you, or I'm going to not listen to what you're saying. I'm just going to do my own thing. I think, those are stories that we all tell each other in our heads. And I just think like this little thing that I'm talking about right here, we're going to have our whole team do. And they're going to have to apply that same type of thing so that, stories don't get in the way. But I think a lot of it is anxiety. I think a lot of it is trying to be perfect. I think a lot of it is I don't want to let the team down. A lot of it is lack of trust. And so, trust in the technique, trust in this call. And so those are all things that I think are part of it, especially early in the year, especially when you haven't been in that type of predicament. When you haven't been in that circumstance, you have to learn to not let the outside get on the inside, and so we have some teaching to do there.
A couple of questions I appreciated. Dave Aranda, Baylor football coach. Monterey Baldwin's one of the few with experience at a very young position at receiver. That doesn't mean some of those guys didn't make plays, but him going out, because he can do more in the receiving and running game. How much did that hurt? How much does that hurt without him?
Yeah, anytime you don't have guys that throughout the week take reps and you build around the talent that you have and the personalities that you have, and you try to feature the people that you have. And so when you don't have that, there's always a plan B and a change of pace and a change of plans. But there's a plan A for a reason, and so I think our ability to be more consistent with the drop back pass game and protection, and the accuracy of routes and depth and timing and releases and all of it can help curtail, right, the extended view right now we have on maybe this package for this player or this package for that player. And so I think that's all part of it when you're trying to really hone in on who you are and what you're doing.
Before you knew who you were last year, Texas State gave you everything you needed in that opening game. They just won big. They have a running back who had nearly 200 yards. Mm-hmm. This is the Sun Belt Conference just showed America there are no gimmies. Mm-hmm. And I can't imagine there's any kind of a thought that this is just automatic.
No, I have a great respect for their staff. I think, particularly defensively, those guys have been, when they're at Tech, they would visit, and, I think I'm seeing stuff on their tape that looks like our tape, here at Baylor. And so I think we've always been real close in beliefs and schemes and all of it. And so a lot of respect for them. And then, just great people on top of it. And then, they compete, they play hard. Mm-hmm. And you go from the first game to the second game for them. There's a lot of improvement, especially in offense. And, defensively, I think their last two games have been the best that they've played in the last 2 years. You look at the numbers that they've given up the last two games, better than any of the numbers they gave up last year. And so it will definitely be a challenge.
You have this amazing, unique way of looking at life, very even-keeled. Doesn't mean there's no fire inside that belly, because we know there is. How do you clear a loss? How much does it linger with you? And is it something that you just look at as part of reality?
No, I appreciate the question. I think, I think you work really, really hard at whatever craft you have or whatever you're doing, and you put your heart and soul into it, and you try to, you need to see people in the process, and, and really kind of take heed of who they are becoming in the process, and let them lead you to, whatever potential scheme or tool or technique that's needed at the end of it, and just really just make it about people and use your people. But I think the time and the energy that you invest is real, and then the preparation is real, and then whatever when you get to a game or any type of competitive thing, man, you do your best, and you don't control the outcome, and then whatever the outcome is, you look at it, devoid of, and this is the part I think that catches people probably, is devoid of emotion. Mm-hmm. And you look at it as this is what we did right, this is what we did wrong, here are the reasons that lie underneath it, these are the honest motivations, these are the things that we have to agree on and see. And and I think, I don't know, that way has always really kind of served me well. I think it's I can understand that there wants to, it would, I think people would probably feel better about stuff if there was the yelling a little bit prior part to all of that.
Get it out.
They'd probably want both. But I just think, I don't know, what I just described is what we're trying to get the players to do, because I think when they bring emotion into it, a lot of times when you're in the moment of an event, it automatically goes negative, because if we're worried about our outcome and the outcome looks like it's not going to happen, then it goes to, I'm a failure, mm-hmm. or I'm not good enough and everything. And so what we try to get them to not do is look at it that way, but look at it as, hey, what is absolutely happening right now? What is really going on? Like, what they're running this press coverage, and I need to work on my release with this step or this rip. And if I do that, then I'm going to be successful in the route. And what just happened the previous series does no effect on this series unless I do the exact same thing. And if now I have an awareness of what's happening, and so now I'm going to fix it. And so that whole thing is a minefield, man. You know, it gets lost in just the emotion of it. And so, yeah, we'll see. I think the connection of the team, the talent of the team, I anticipate good things coming.
Dave Aranda, Baylor football coach on 365 Sports.
Thank you to Coach Aranda. Appreciate the access with him. And now appreciate Keith Gill. He's the Sun Belt